My name is Emily, and I never thought my life would take such a drastic turn. It all started on a warm summer day when I first laid eyes on Tom. He had an infectious smile and a magnetic presence that drew me in instantly. Little did I know that our love story would soon become a dark tale of pain and deception. I met Tom at a friend's party where our paths crossed unexpectedly. As I stood near the drinks table, trying to find something refreshing to quench my thirst, Tom approached me with a charming smile. "Hey there, I couldn't help but notice your radiant smile from across the room. I'm Tom," he said, extending his hand. Blushing, I shook his hand and replied, "Hi, Tom. I'm Emily. Nice to meet you." We instantly hit it off, engaging in lively conversations that flowed effortlessly. He possessed a quick wit and an intelligent mind, which captivated me from the start. As the night wore on, we exchanged stories, dreams, and aspirations, feeling an instant connection. Days turned into weeks, and our relationship blossomed. Tom was a true romantic, showering me with love and affection. He planned dates that were straight out of a fairy tale, taking me to candlelight dinners, walks on moonlit beaches, and even surprise weekend getaways. One evening, as we cuddled on the couch, Tom gazed into my eyes and said, "Emily, you're the best thing that has ever happened to me. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy welled up in my eyes as I nodded and whispered, "Yes, Tom, I will marry you." From that moment, we embarked on the journey of planning our dream wedding. Together, we pored over wedding magazines, debated color schemes, and visited countless venues. Tom was actively involved, offering his suggestions and support every step of the way. It felt like a fairy tale come true. However, as the wedding day drew nearer, I noticed subtle changes in Tom's behavior. He would occasionally come home late, his breath smelling of alcohol. At first, I dismissed it as stress from wedding preparations, but it soon became a recurring pattern. One evening, as I sat alone at the kitchen table, Tom stumbled through the front door, clearly intoxicated. Anger welled up inside me as I confronted him. "Tom, where have you been?" "You smell like a distillery," I exclaimed, my voice filled with concern. He shrugged nonchalantly. "Just hanging out with the guys. You worry too much, Emily." But I couldn't let it go. I stood my ground, searching for answers. "This is not the man I fell in love with, Tom. What's going on?" Tom's eyes shifted uncomfortably as he mumbled, "It's nothing, really, just blowing off some steam. I promise it won't happen again." Little did I know that this was only the beginning of a much darker truth that awaited me. As our wedding day approached, the cracks in Tom's facade became more pronounced. I couldn't ignore the signs any longer. The late nights, the smell of alcohol on his breath, and the bruises that would appear on my body. It was clear that something was terribly wrong. One evening, as I sat on the edge of our bed, my heart heavy with worry, Tom stumbled into the room, swaying slightly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his words slurred. "Emily, I'm sorry," he mumbled, his voice filled with remorse. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know what's wrong with me." Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at him, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and desperation. "Tom, why are you doing this? We were supposed to be building a life together." "I thought we were happy." He collapsed onto the bed, his face buried in his hands. "I don't know, Emily. I can't explain it. I have demons inside me that I can't control." I reached out, placing a trembling hand on his back. "Tom, we need to seek help. We can't go on like this. I love you, but I can't stay in a relationship where I fear for my safety." His shoulders shook as he sobbed, his voice filled with regret. "You're right, Emily. I don't deserve you. I need to get better. I promise I'll do whatever it takes to change. Hope flickered within me as I held on to those words. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for redemption and healing. But deep down, doubts lingered and a voice whispered in my ear, warning me not to trust too easily. Days turned into weeks, and Tom made an effort to attend therapy and seek treatment for his alcohol addiction. I desperately wanted to believe that he could change, that the man I fell in love with was still buried somewhere within him. Yet, despite his attempts at self-improvement, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. Late-night phone calls, hushed conversations when he thought I wasn't listening, and a growing distance between us. Something was amiss. One evening, unable to ignore my suspicions any longer, I confronted Tom. The air in the room was heavy with tension as I looked him in the eye and asked Tom, "Is there something else? Something you're not telling me?" He hesitated, his eyes darting away from mine. "Emily, I've been in touch with someone from my past. It's just conversations, nothing more." Anger and hurt surged through me as I raised my voice, frustration evident in my words. "You've been lying to me, Tom. How could you betray me like this?" Tom's voice cracked, filled with remorse. "I didn't want to hurt you, Emily. I thought I could handle it on my own. Please give me a chance to explain." But in that moment, as his words hung in the air, I realized that trust had been shattered. Our relationship, once filled with love and promise, had now become a tangled web of lies and deceit. Days turned into weeks, and the knowledge of Tom's secret conversations with someone from his past gnawed at the back of my mind. It was an invisible wall between us, growing thicker with each passing day. I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the story he had confessed. Late one night, unable to sleep, I found myself sitting in the dimly lit living room, scrolling through my phone. Doubts and questions swirled in my mind, urging me to dig deeper. Taking a deep breath, I made a decision. I would search for the truth, no matter how painful it might be. My fingers trembled as I unlocked Tom's phone, feeling a mix of guilt and determination. As I delved into his messages, my heart sank. There, buried amidst countless conversations, I found what I had feared the most: a series of intimate exchanges between Tom and his ex-girlfriend, Sarah. I read their words with disbelief and tears streaming down my face. The betrayal cut deep like a knife to my heart. They had been secretly seeing each other for over a year, sharing stolen moments, memories, and plans for a future that excluded me. A mixture of anger and devastation consumed me as I confronted Tom. The weight of the truth hung heavy in the air between us as I held up his phone, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and betrayal. "How could you, Tom? How could you lie to me about your relationship with Sarah? I thought we were in this together. I thought we were in this together. I thought we were in this together. I thought you loved me." Tom's face contorted with regret and shame as he reached out, desperately trying to find the right words. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to lose you, so I kept it hidden. Please believe me when I say it didn't mean anything." Fury surged through me, my voice laced with bitterness. "Didn't mean anything? How can you say that? You spent an entire year building a secret life with her while I trusted you blindly. I can't just sweep this under the rug. Tom, it's a betrayal of our love." Tears welled up in his eyes as he pleaded, his voice choked with remorse. "Emily, I made a mistake. I never meant to hurt you. Please give me a chance to make things right. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your forgiveness." But in that moment, standing face to face with the unveiled betrayal, I knew that forgiveness would not come easily. The trust that had once bound us together had shattered into irreparable pieces. I had to decide whether to salvage the fragments or walk away from the ruins of our relationship. The day of our wedding dawned with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Despite the lingering doubts and pain, I was determined to believe in the power of love and the possibility of redemption. I clung to the hope that our wedding day would mark a fresh start for us, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. The venue was adorned with flowers, the air filled with anticipation. Guests arrived, their smiles and well wishes filling the space with joy. I stood at the altar, my heart pounding with nervous excitement, awaiting the moment when I would exchange vows with the man I once believed was my soulmate. As the ceremony commenced, my eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Tom's familiar face, but a flicker of unease crept in when I noticed his absence at the altar. A wave of panic washed over me. Had he changed his mind? Was this all a cruel joke? Just as doubt threatened to consume me, a hush fell over the room as the doors swung open. And there, standing in the doorway, was Sarah, Tom's ex-girlfriend. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd, creating an eerie silence. She walked down the aisle with a confident stride, her eyes fixed on me, a glint of mischief in her gaze. My heart pounded, and a cold sweat formed on my brow. What was she doing here? Sarah reached the front of the altar, turning to face me, her voice filled with smug satisfaction. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. Tom and I have been in a secret relationship for the past year, despite his engagement to Emily." Shockwaves reverberated through the room as gasps of disbelief filled the air. I felt as though the ground had been ripped from beneath my feet, leaving me suspended in a state of despair. Then, with a flick of her hand, Sarah played a video on a large screen, showcasing Tom and herself engaged in intimate moments, laughing and whispering sweet nothings. The video was a painful testament to their betrayal, leaving me exposed and humiliated before our friends and humiliated before our friends and family. Tears streamed down my face as I turned to confront Tom, my voice filled with a mix of anguish and anger. How could you, Tom, how could you keep up this charade, knowing the pain it would cause? We were about to commit our lives to each other. Tom's face turned pale, his voice barely a whisper. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I thought I could fix everything before it got this far." But his words were empty and hollow, drowned out by the weight of the deception that had been laid bare. The wedding day, once filled with dreams of love and unity, had morphed into a nightmare of betrayal and shattered trust. In that moment, a fierce determination ignited within me. I would not allow myself to be a victim of their lies. With a resolve burning in my eyes, I fled from the wedding venue, leaving behind the shattered remnants of my once hoped for future. As I ran, tears mingling with determination, I made a silent vow. I would gather the strength to rise above the pain and seek my own form of justice. It was time to unveil the truth about the abuse and betrayal I had endured and reclaim my dignity. In the aftermath of the wedding day disaster, a fire burned within me, a desire for retribution, for justice. I refused to let Tom and Sarah's deceit define my story. It was time to take matters into my own hands and seek the revenge I so desperately craved. With a renewed sense of purpose, I retreated to the solitude of my apartment, the walls closing in around me as I plotted my next move. The pain and humiliation fueled my determination, pushing me to expose the truth and hold Tom accountable for his actions. Days turned into nights as I delved into gathering evidence, text messages, photos, and any proof that would expose Tom's abusive behavior. It was a painful process, reliving the scars he had left on my body and soul. But with each piece of evidence, my resolve strengthened. One evening, fueled by anger and determination, I made the decision to take my story public. I would no longer suffer in silence. It was time to shed light on the dark reality of my relationship and expose the true face of the man I had once loved. I reached out to a trusted friend, Maria, who had always been my confidant. As she sat across from me, her eyes filled with concern, I shared my plan. "Maria, I can't let him get away with what he's done. I want the world to know the truth about Tom, about the abuse I endured. I'm going to expose him and make sure he faces the consequences." Maria nodded, her voice filled with support. "Emily, I understand your pain and I stand by you. But remember, revenge won't heal the wounds. It's important to focus on your own healing and empowerment." A determined smile played on my lips as I replied, "You're right, Maria. This is not just about revenge. It's about reclaiming my power and ensuring that no one else falls victim to his abuse." Together, we strategized on the best course of action. Maria suggested contacting a local women's rights organization, seeking their guidance and support. With their help, we would navigate the legal system and ensure that Tom faced the consequences of his actions. Days turned into weeks as the wheels of justice began to turn. Police reports were filed, testimonies were gathered, and the legal process was set in motion. The weight of the impending court case was both daunting and empowering, a step towards closure and vindication. As the court date loomed closer, doubt and anxiety gnawed at the edges of my mind. What if Tom managed to manipulate the system, casting doubt on my claims? But I refused to let fear consume me. I had come too far to back down now. On the day of the trial, I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding, surrounded by loved ones and supporters. Tom's face bore a mix of shame and apprehension as he stood before the judge, facing the consequences of his actions. The judge, a figure of authority, listened intently as I recounted the horrors of the abuse I had endured. The weight of the truth filled the room as my voice trembled with a mix of pain and resilience. Tom's defense attorney attempted to cast doubt on my claims, painting me as a vindictive ex-fiancé seeking revenge, but the evidence I presented, the scars on my body and the testimonies of witnesses, spoke volumes. The truth could not be silenced. In a moment that felt both surreal and victorious, the judge delivered the verdict, a sentence of 1 year in jail and a substantial fine for Tom. Justice had been served, and a sense of closure washed over me. As I stepped out of the courtroom, a weight lifted from my shoulders. The road to healing would still be long and arduous, but the triumph of exposing the truth and ensuring Tom faced the consequences brought a newfound sense of strength and resilience. Revenge had been sought, not for the sake of vengeance alone, but as a catalyst for my own empowerment. I had broken free from the tangled web of abuse and betrayal, and in doing so, I had reclaimed my voice. My dignity and my future